Yo, what's going on? My name is Saleh. I'm a music artist and a producer. And today, let's talk streaming. I kind of had an epiphany this week. I went and I looked at people's Spotify's Wraps. So you can look at people's Spotify's Wraps at the end of the year. Usually they'll post it to their Instagram and you can see how many streams they do. And if you know how many streams they're doing, and you know how much Spotify and Apple Music pay per stream, you can figure out how much they're making just from streaming alone, especially if they're independent. Some independent artists that I've been looking at lately that I've been studying are Connor Price, Nick D, Russ, and Jake, of which all of them posted their Spotify Wraps this year. So let's look at Connor Price, for example. So Connor Price, well, before we get there, let's look at how much money do you make per stream? So Apple Music pays about $6,000 to $10,000 per million streams. Spotify pays $4,000 per million streams. So with that in mind, these Spotify Wraps are going to be based around that number, the $4,000 per million streams. So Connor Price did 608.5 million streams this year, which then would equate to $2,434,000. Wow, that's a lot of money in just streaming revenue, just Spotify even. Nick D did 318.5 million streams, which equates to $1,274,000 in revenue. Russ did 949.5 million streams, which equates to $3,798,000 just on Spotify streaming alone. And Jake did 1.5 billion streams this year, which equates to $6 million. So I don't know about you guys, but when I heard this, my mind was blown because here's the thing, all of these artists are independent. Not a single one of them is signed to a label. I hear a lot of people say, oh, well, there's no money in streaming. And yes, that can be true, especially if you're a sign artist, because then you're going to be paying at least 80% of your streaming revenue to your label, which means you're only left with 20%, which is going to make you so you have to tour, sell merch, do brand deals, do all of these things outside of being a musician, so to speak, or outside of streaming. That will then bring you enough money to survive on. But if you're independent, like a Connor, like a Jake, like a Russ, like a Nick D, then you are making enough money to make a living off of music. I saw these numbers a couple weeks ago. I did the math and I was shocked by the possibility of the amount of money that you can make off of music being an independent artist. A lot of people are gonna ask, like, how in the world do you even get 1 million streams? And now that is a good question. 1 million streams, let's think about this. So let's say you're doing 1 million streams a month. So you're gonna do 12 million streams at the end of the year. You're gonna be making $4,000 per month off of Spotify streams. Now that arguably is enough to live off of, depends on your goals. And that is also important, is what are your goals? How many streams do you think that you might need in order to live off of music? But let's say that's your starting point. So 1 million streams per month. Well, the way that you do that is there's two ways. And really it's one way at the end of the day. You have to release very high quality music consistently. And then you have to create content around the music that is just as good, or if not better, than the music itself. Great content can make a good song great. And that's what you want to focus on, is creating the best content possible. So most people today though are on short form content. That's what most people consume. If you go back 10 to 15 years ago, most people were discovering music on music blogs or YouTube, basically long form content. So there's 3.5 billion people on the internet today. Let's say all of them were digesting content that way using long form content back then. Now, let's say at least half of those people are not doing that and they're on short form content today. You have a lot of less people focusing on long form content and a lot of other people, when they go onto their social media, focusing on short form content, because we only have so much time in the day and we only have so much time allotted to checking our phones, to scrolling, or whatever it is that we do as people. The majority of people now are consuming their content on short form content, which means you as an artist have to create content around your music that is not salesy or pitchy, but that's entertaining, because these apps are entertainment apps. People go on these apps because they need a release from life. They need to take a break. They're not going on these apps to find music or to find artists. They're going on them to be entertained. That's why they scroll, they laugh, they share. They scroll, they laugh, they share. That's the concept of these apps. So you have to create content around those apps. How can I make creative, funny, or at least content that's gonna pull at someone emotionally, that's gonna make them want to share the piece of content? These social media apps are gonna share your content based upon how many shares you get and the watch time of those videos themselves. So you gotta create content that's entertaining. You know, I see a lot of artists, they'll create content where they'll just sing their song in front of the video. I've done this too. But I know for me, when I'm watching this as a viewer, I tend to just scroll past it because it bores me. I need to see something else. I wanna see your personality. If you are gonna sing your song, I still wanna see a little bit of your personality in there somehow. Maybe you're talking before the video. Maybe something happens at the end of the video that's gonna keep my attention to the end of the video. Regardless of what it is, you wanna create a world where people can enter into and they can see who you are as a human being. And if they like you as a human being, they're by extension gonna like your music, and therefore it'll convert to streaming numbers. The two things that are most important is, one, make fantastic music as much as possible and release it as consistently as possible. Number 2 is around every single piece of music that you make, release content that's even better than the music. Eventually you're gonna catch one's gonna go viral, then the next one's gonna go viral. Maybe there'll be a couple that flop and don't go viral. But if you continually create content, make an adjustment around what's working and what's not, throw out what's not working, try out new things, eventually you'll find success. A lot of people though, they give up too early. If you look at someone like Russ, he had to put out 11 mixtapes before he even came out with the idea of, hey, maybe I'll put out a song a week and maybe people will listen to that one song and I'll blow up. And he did blow up in that process of putting out a song a week, but it took him 2 years after doing 11 albums. So he did 11 albums and then he put a song a week out every single week for 2 years, and in that process blew up. Most people would give up at the maybe put out 1 or 2 albums and then they give up because nobody's paying attention, that's it. He tried new methods, the 11 albums wasn't working, and then he decided to try something new, which was a song a week on SoundCloud at the time, and that's what blew him up. Another interesting thing is Connor Price posted this year his Spotify numbers for the last 5 years, starting in 2018, and I wanted to share them with you guys to show you it took him a long time to build up the fan base that he has today. So in 2018, he had 7,000 streams. 2019, he had 19.8 thousand streams. In 2020, he had 238.6 thousand streams, so a big leap. And then in 2021, he had 3 million, which is even a more massive leap. In 2022, he had 99.4 million streams, which is obviously enough to make a living off of music. It's beyond enough. And then in 2023, he had 608.5 million streams, which is obviously, we did the math, is over $2 million in streaming revenue just from Spotify alone. Let's say he had given up before he got into that 4th year in 2022. So from 2018 to 2021, he was not making enough off streaming to make a living, which is insane to think about. That's a lot of time of consistently putting out music, consistently putting out content with not seeing any results. Most people would give up in that time, and I think that's the thing. He didn't give up. He kept pushing. He kept analyzing his content. If you go back on his page, you can see how his content changes constantly. He's constantly adjusting a little bit here, a little bit there. He would do performance videos in the beginning. Then he started to do the skits. Then from the skits, he started to do the Spin the Globe challenge that he did that really blew him up. Now he's making content that's working for him. So the thing is you have to be consistent over a long period of time and not give up. You have to be delusional in your self-belief, because there's going to be plenty of people that are like, man, what are you doing? Give up now. But if you continue to believe in yourself and you do what you know you should do, which is put out music consistently, put out content, great entertaining content consistently, it's just a matter of time before you blow up. I promise you this. Until next time, I'll see you. Peace.